My father always said to me, when life gives you a rock, put it in your mouth. Man contest here, Toastmasters, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you about 3 rocks that I had in my life. Mr. Hadi, Mr. Fuad, and Mr. Salman. My first rock, Mr. Hadi. He was my first grade teacher. Raise your hand if you've ever had a mean teacher. Bring all your teachers here, and I'm sure Mr. Hadi can make them all cry. Mr. Hadi used to test us at the beginning of each class. He used to ask us questions. And if you answered wrong, he would slap you so hard that your face would turn into an abstract piece of art. And not a beautiful one. If you know Picasso's paintings where there are 2 eyes on the same side of the face, well, you get the idea. One day, Mr. Hadi asked me a question. He said, Hasan, what's the answer to 2 plus 1? I said, easy, that's 3. And instantly, my face turned into an abstract piece of art. Later, I asked him, why did you slap me? He said, well, you should have used your fingers to count. 2 plus 1 equals 1, 2, 3. That's the way that I taught you. My second rock, Mr. Fuad. Also a mean teacher. I bet he can make Mr. Hadi cry. Mr. Fuad didn't used to hit us. Instead, Mr. Fuad used to call us names. But not regular names. You know, the ones that people would use to make fun of you for a day or 2? No. If Mr. Fuad called you a name, it would stay with you for the rest of your life. See, I have 3 friends who were taught by Mr. Fuad. They have kids and they're married for a long time ago. Yet people still refer to them as satellite dish, olive oil, and cheesecake. Mr. Fuad always tried to find a name that would suit my face, but with no luck. So you know what he did instead? He knew that I was competing to get the best student award. So he took off points off my record just so that I don't get that award. How do I know that? Because he told that to me, to my face. My third rock, Mr. Salman, my basketball coach. I bet that both Mr. Fuad and Mr. Hadi would never dare to meet him. During our basketball practice, it was abstract art all over the place. He was a good, experienced coach, but a lot of people left the team because it was really hard and painful to stay there. Now, a 4th piece of rock didn't belong to me. It belonged to a man called Demosthenes. Demosthenes was a Greek orator, or in modern day words, a public speaker. He's regarded by many historians as one of the best public speakers in the history of humanity. Now, the interesting thing is that he wasn't always a good public speaker. In fact, when he was young, he suffered from 2 speech impediments: a weakness in his voice and a shortness of breath. He wanted to get better at public speaking. So you know what he did? He took a piece of rock, he put it in his mouth, and practiced speaking over and over until he overcame his speech impediments. And he was one of the best public speakers in in the history of humanity. And ladies and gentlemen, sometimes life gives you rocks. Sometimes you find yourselves in difficult situations that you did not choose for yourself. Difficult situations that are really difficult to change, no matter how hard you try. Then it becomes your decision whether to let the rock affect you or to embrace the rock and move on. You see, a lot of people talk about striving for change. Change in the workplace, change in societies, change in politics. But a lot of people tend to forget about a very important ingredient that should come before change. That is the ability to adapt to change. You see, sometimes it's not about turning this piece of rock into pieces. Sometimes it's about accepting the rock into your life and not letting it affect you. Today, I find myself more confident, a better basketball player, and I didn't really care much about my grades. And still I got my master's degree. And all of that because I didn't care about these 3 pieces of rock. Now if I throw this piece of rock at you, what are you going to do? Contest chair.